Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss my thoughts on the results of the various elections which took place yesterday. We've had local elections, some mayoral elections, and a Westminster by-election which Labour embarrassingly lost by 6 votes, despite putting no major effort into winning it. You had like Angela Rayner turned up like a week ago, no big push on the days leading up to it, 6 votes. Anyway, that being said, has it really all gone Farage's way? He is certainly hailing a breakthrough moment for Reform UK, but he still faces 2 massive challenges. And one of them is that he is now forced to deliver at the local level if he is to press his credentials at the next general election. But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So various people will be trying to work out whether the results for Reform UK are an underperformance, on target or overperformance. Futile exercise in my view. Low turnout, local elections generally difficult to call anyway. There are people making the good point that Farage has benefited from a ridiculous amount of free publicity as well as donations from sources unknown, including from the richest man in the world. They've got enough money. They've been issuing adverts today. That's how much money they've got spare after the polls closed. But the sources of these funds are highly opaque. They claim, because they can't show you where all the money's come from. So it's just come from lots of grassroots donations from ordinary people. Because if they're small donations, you don't have to declare where they came from. But it's like, I'm not really sure you've built that much, millions out of like poor people. And what's to stop Uncle Vlad sending loads of small donations which add up into millions, right? But anyway, there's no point in wondering if the results shouldn't have been better considering his very wealthy backers. The bottom line is the results are objectively very good for Reform UK. Think about what their strategic objective was. It was to have the evidence to demonstrate that they are a rapidly expanding party, that they need this to do this in order to get voters to believe that it is possible to go from winning 5 seats in one general election to over 320 in the next in order to form a government, right? Now, I'll keep repeating that this will not occur, by the way. But for those willing to believe it, would the results have added to that belief? Yes, it would. Even the contest they lost, they were often a close second. They didn't even need to win Runcorn, for example, to demonstrate momentum. Just running the contest close for a seat which had been Labour solidly since before I was born was enough for them. But winning obviously has now allowed them a very visible trophy. The entire parliamentary party can no longer fit in the back of a taxi, at least not comfortably, so Farage has sunk one of Labour's little, Starmer's particularly, little attack lines. In the here and now, Reform UK will be convincing those who want to believe it that they are presenting a credible third option to the big parties, right? Like everything with Farage, it's a mirage, but it will have a lot of people convinced. However, although the strategic aim of demonstrating momentum has been achieved, and there's no point in pretending otherwise, it does come at a potential cost to Farage. He's conducted his entire political career by carefully avoiding power. He has one of the lowest attendance records of any MEP, past or present, didn't bother to turn up to Fisheries Committee meetings when he was the British representative, yet still managed to convince fishermen he was on their side. He now has a terrible attendance record in the British Parliament and almost never goes to Clacton, his constituency, and he still gets away with it. But will he get away with the victories this week? Because in the past, he could always claim that he didn't have the power to enforce his policies. Now he does. Farage urged people to vote for him to fix their councils. Well, some have now done so in sufficient numbers that they will now be put to the test. They have political power in some parts of the country. It's actual political power. They can do things. This is potentially a problem for Reform UK. See, they wanted the visible signs of success, not the responsibility. Reform UK now have something which Farage has never had in his entire political life: administrative political power. Reform UK are in charge of policy formation and delivery in parts of the country, and they will have this power for enough time before the next general election to be judged on their use of it. They won't be able to say, oh, well, we've only just got this power. We can't do it overnight, you know. They've got years, absolutely years to prove themselves. Both Labour and the Conservatives will surely be keeping a very careful eye on how they perform and immediately jump on failures, and there will be failures. Reform have attracted some of the most insular political beasts in the jungle. Plenty of their candidates already have records of public statements that Farage would really like to keep quiet. As councillors, however, they've got now a bigger profile. Their behaviour will be more newsworthy. Imagine, for example, how they will deal with, say, I don't know, a major strike of council workers. Ooh, whose side are they going to be on there? The reform baboons presumably will ask central government for help, who, if I were them, would send them a 2-page PDF of guidance, a packet of biscuits, and wish them well. Some of Reform UK's new councillors are actually old Tory councillors. So, for the people, I'm going to come on to this in a moment as well, for the people, because a lot of voters do, they think Reform UK and the Conservatives are very different parties. It's like, well, so how come so many Reform UK elected councillors are like Tory councillors then? But anyway, they are. A lot of them are old Tory councillors, so they know the ropes, they know how councils works. But quite a lot of them are also brand new. They've got no idea what they're doing, but are now in charge. They won't know how to get anything done. They are unlikely to ask for help from other parties in a mutually respectful way, so they won't get help. So things could go to hell in those councils just like they are in Trump's America, where the same approach of putting incompetent gobshites in charge of everything has gone down like a lead balloon. In fact, the worst thing that could happen to Farage, I would say, at the next election, is that his party wins a load of seats. I mean, think about it. He has refused to hand over control of the party to members as he promised. He changed the legal status of Reform UK plc to try and pretend he had, but he still retains complete control, and nothing the members can do about it. Imagine him having 100 MPs in Parliament. He can't control them, except by consent. It would be like herding cats, and there would be weekly scandals. We thought the Tories were drowning in sleaze. Yeah, Reform UK would put them to shame. People keep saying to me, why would we want proportional representation when it would give Reform UK loads of seats? I want them to have loads of seats. If people are going to vote for them in those numbers, give them the seats, right? First of all, they'd be completely exposed. No way Farage can keep a lid on 100 MPs. Secondly, they wouldn't win enough votes to enter coalition, let alone win power with a PR system, so it actually protects us from having them in government. It is possible for them to win power with our current system. I don't think it's an imminent risk. It is a risk for the future, especially if they can grow beyond Farage. See, Farage is in his 60s now. He smokes like a chimney, drinks like a fish. Trump may like his cheeseburgers a bit too much, but he's otherwise clean living. And Reform aren't winning at the next election. Labour are surely at their least popular right now. After this year, their major legislation will have been passed into law. Remember, a lot of the stuff they're doing is really popular, but people don't know about it. It's still going through Parliament. We will also have encouraging agreements with the EU being ticked off. In other words, the groundwork which Labour are laying right now, which not many voters know about, will start to be built upon from next year. Even if their comms gets no better, and I hope it does, but even if it doesn't, the impact of their policies will be noticed. Just as round here, the Gammons are noticing improvements to the NHS right now. And even the Conservatives may decide that perhaps presenting a different offer to Reform UK would be a good idea. See, Badenoch has tried to present a tamer version of Reform UK to chase after those voters, but all she's done is lose even more Conservative voters to Reform UK. All it takes is for Reform's vote to be squeezed. It could be by Labour's policies coming into force, or by either Labour or the Conservatives, or both, just getting better messaging. And Reform's vote share could tumble really quite quickly because they're taking votes from Labour and the Conservatives. You squeeze them at both ends and all of a sudden that vote share drops dramatically. Now, it won't happen right now. Right now, they're riding high. It may begin next year, but come 2027, I do not think Farage will be quite so chipper. But I'm patient, more than happy to watch it happen over the rest of this Parliament. And for those worried about a pact between the Tories and Reform, don't. The combined Tory and Reform vote doesn't exist. They'll talk, oh, but if you add up these votes, don't exist. Except in the heads of desperate Tories. The post-election polling has been clear. By and large, right, in fact, I'll put it even more clearly than this. What the polling showed is that Reform UK voters are less likely to vote Conservative than Labour voters. They don't want any association with the Conservatives. They'd see it as a betrayal. Some people see that Reform UK and the Tories are basically the same thing. You look at they are, we know that they're the same thing, right? That's not how their voters see it. They see them as fundamentally different. They accept no similarity between the two. They're completely incompatible parties as far as they're concerned. Obviously, the voters who came from the Conservatives, they're okay with a pact or a merger, but not those voters who came from Labour. So any pact would have to be very, very covert. It would look dodgy to even stand candidates down for one another. It would risk Reform voters going back to Labour, where those improvements to the NHS working conditions and, you know what, even lower immigration would help. And moderate Conservatives would be tempted by the Lib Dems. Now, my fears for Reform UK are more for the election afterwards, because at the election afterwards, like Labour, by the next election, will have shown major gains. They'll get another election. Once you've fixed a lot of things, though, the gains are not so large, not so noticeable. But also there is the damage that Reform can do, because the more seats they win, even at local level, you're giving them a bigger voice, and they're using that voice to sway public attitudes on a whole range of things. So the damage they can do, because it doesn't matter that they're not in power nationally, they are nonetheless shifting public attitudes, which forces the government in power, Labour, to also shift some of their policies in more unhelpful directions. So the damage they can do in the foreseeable future is stuffing things up at the local level, but also panicking Labour and Conservative strategists into doing dumb shit out of the fear of a threat from Reform UK that only really exists because they manifest it. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.